it's Jacqueline, and I am back with our 5th episode in the motivation series. We've been talking about getting yourself to do the thing. We've talked about pain, we've talked about pleasure, we've talked about aspirational identity, breaking big things down into little things. We're going to get to more of that today. But first, I wanted to let you know that I have a brand new Facebook group open. It is called Systems for Self-Care. So no longer using Actually You Are Real Runner, the Facebook group, or the Imperfect Eating Facebook group, but combining everyone together into one group, Systems for Self-Care. In that group, you're going to find material or content that I will not have anywhere else. I'm actually going to have live trainings in there, hopping on Facebook Live and helping you with things and some Q&A sessions. So right now, the content that I've been putting up in the podcast has been distributed everywhere, but the Facebook group is going to have stuff that is nowhere else. Also, right now I'm working on creating some 10-minute self-care session worksheets so that you start your morning with doing something, anything, and not waiting until you have an extra hour in your day, but actually building it up slowly. So I'm really excited about that. So again, you can go into the show notes, you can go into the link to find the Facebook group, Systems for Self-Care. All right, let's get to today's episode, which is about doing the thing. That's what we want to do. We want to get you to do the thing. And a lot of times people will struggle with motivation. They'll get really overwhelmed. They'll just kind of be like, I'm not going to do that. I will push that off to another time when life settles down, or when I just magically know how to do the thing or be the person. And it doesn't work like that. What we find is like, oh shoot, like a year just went by, 2 years went by, 6 years went by, 9 years went by, and I didn't start that thing that I wanted to do. So yesterday we touched on this a little bit, but I want to get into this a little bit more. The reason being, well, let's get into it. So if you are overwhelmed and you are not doing the thing, you have some options. Some of you might need to chunk down. You might look at this big thing that you want and it feels so overwhelming. It feels so foreign. It feels so far in the future. You might need to chunk down because it's too big and you don't even know the first step to take. You don't even know the first action. So chunking down helps you break that big thing down into achievable, attainable, tangible action items. What are you actually going to do? You're going to wake up and you're going to do this thing, and that thing, that action is going to help you get closer to having that big thing, and not just having that big thing and waiting for that destination, but being that person along the journey, having a little bit of that thing in your life every day. I highly recommend writing these things down. There's a book I read years ago. I think it was something about eating a frog first thing in the morning. I don't remember what it was, but the biggest thing I got from that book was if you're not working from a list, your brain is you're just like, what am I supposed to be doing? You don't even know. So always be working from a list. When you are working on something, anything, make sure that you're writing it down and you're working from a list so that you stay focused. You know what you're supposed to do next. Having the next step written down is really going to help you move forward and actually do the thing. Now, let's pretend that you're doing the thing, you're showing up, you're doing the actions. Great. A lot of us can feel really overwhelmed, or even just seeing a list of all of these things, of all of these, your to-do list. It can feel really overwhelming. It can feel really tedious. It can just feel like, oh my gosh, this is more stuff on the to-do list. And then we can get overwhelmed with that. Oh, it's like this giant list of things that I'm supposed to do. Wow, this is my life, just doing a bunch of random little things. And that's the thing too. I think it can feel really random if you're just writing random to-do lists. It can feel really random and tedious. So if you're in that place, what you want to actually do is you want to chunk up. You want to chunk up and think about, what is the big picture? What is that big thing that I'm working on? Because the truth is, that big thing that you want, it does come down to some tedious actions, some tedious habits. So many people, they love trying out new diets. Trying out a new diet is so exciting. Ooh, I have something new to try. I have something exciting, right? that novelty. But the truth is, healthy eaters don't switch to random new things. They just eat how they eat. And it can be kind of tedious, right? It's just showing up and doing the thing, getting the reps in. Becoming a really strong weightlifter, at the end of the day, it comes down to who's going to show up and do these often tedious and not really exciting lifts, rep after rep after rep. It's not really all that exciting, right? And so it can feel really just kind of like disheartening, like, oh, like this is my life. My life is just doing these random things on the to-do list. That's why connecting it back to that big thing, that big picture thing that you want. And I always go to not just the goal, that destination, but who's that person that you're working on being? Who is that person day to day? Because you're not going to arrive at this end of the race or this end of the diet or this end of the month or the year and be like, I have arrived. No, it's like, who are you being every day? And are you satisfied with that person that you're being every day? So connect back to that big picture, connect back to that aspirational identity, and write. Make sure that you are writing these things. You're getting it out of your head and onto paper. We can be so irrational in our heads, but when we get it onto paper, we can be a little bit more rational, a little bit more thoughtful, and a little bit more purposeful. And I think that's a big thing too. What's the purpose of all this? It can feel, to-do lists can feel like annoying to-do lists, but it's like, why am I doing all of these things? And connect back to something bigger. What is your purpose? You are on this planet for a reason. I find that it's very helpful to think about it, even if you don't have a relationship with God or with religion, just thinking like, why are we here? Like, what is the purpose of all of this? Why are you here on this planet? What can you do on this planet to make your life purposeful and valuable? When you have that purpose, when you connect back to that bigger thing, like why you're doing this, it does make that tedious work, those tedious reps, that showing up, it connects back to, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm doing this because, it's going to help me. It's going to help other people. This is how we build a community. This is how we like move things along in our society. I find that to be very helpful for me. And I know that times that I didn't have that stronger purpose, I didn't have that sense of connection, I felt lost. My life felt valueless. I didn't feel like I was contributing. I didn't have any direction. It felt very sad for myself. So those are my 2 tips. Is if you are feeling overwhelmed by the big things, if the big thing feels so big, chunk it down into those small steps. If those small steps, those small actions feel very tedious, they feel like there's so many things, you are that person. You're going to want to chunk up to the bigger purpose and remind yourself over and over again. One of the things that I love about the work that we've been doing in the self-care workbook, the Year of Growth workbook, is I have a slot on there for people to write their aspirational identity, the person I'm working on becoming, and some evidence that I'm already being that purpose now. So the purpose of that slot on the workbook is to connect back to that bigger purpose. There are going to be days that you wake up and you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to wake up in the morning. I want to stay in my comfy bed. The bed is warmer. Oh, right. I'm working on being a morning person, and being a morning person helps me show up for myself. It helps me feel good. And then I'm able to show up and take care of my kids better. I'm a better mom when I show up for myself. Or I'm a better teacher when I've taken that time for myself. I'm not as stressed when I go to school. I can show up for my students better because I like my cup is full. Or, hey, I'm working on building this I don't know, the interior design business or your coaching business or your podcast or whatever. Why, these tedious things. Oh, I don't want to have to do this rep. Oh, right. I'm working on this bigger thing, this aspirational identity. That reminds me why I'm doing all of these little things. And it gives it purpose. So it's not just this to-do list. Life stops feeling like a drag. We move away from that pain of life just feeling like a drag. And we move closer to pleasure, life feeling passionate, you feeling passionate about life, seeing a purpose in why you're doing these little things. So those are my tips for you today. That kind of closes out the motivation series. I'm sure that we'll come back to it in some other form. I think we're going to move next towards meals, which I'm really excited about. But last plug, remember, you can join the Systems for Self-Care Facebook group. The link will be below or in the show notes. In that group, we're going to be working like closer, more intensely on like actually showing up, doing these things and making this your year of growth, 2021 can be really spectacular if you put in the work and you decide for it to be. All right. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.